Dear listeners, welcome to today's audiobook story time. I'm excited to share this story of love and betrayal that took place in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Spring in Buenos Aires, Argentina is always extraordinarily charming. Martin stood on his balcony, looking at the brightly colored purple and bluebonnet trees in the distance, and reminiscing about when he and Luciana first met. It was 7 years ago at a symposium on restoring historic buildings, and he was presenting his designs while she came to interview him as an art critic. Fate has thus strung together two lonely hearts. Martin is an accomplished architect specializing in the restoration of historic buildings. His level of expertise is well known throughout South America. As a man from an ordinary background, he relied on his talent and hard work to get where he is now. He loved his work, but never let it take over his entire life. He would set aside a regular 2 evenings a week to spend with Luciana and would plan elaborate date events on the weekends. On their 5th wedding anniversary, he even took 2 weeks off to take Luciana to a private vacation home in Patagonia. Luciana is the manager of Galeria Aurora, one of the few most famous art galleries in Buenos Aires. She is well versed in art history and has a unique vision that has helped the gallery discover several emerging artists. She is sensual and elegant, and is always the center of attention at social gatherings. An encounter with Martin finds balance for a woman who longs for stability but fears the ordinary. Martin's steadiness and creativity attracted her, while her passion and aesthetics fascinated Martin. However, underneath the calm lake of marriage, undercurrents have begun to rise. In recent months, Martin has vaguely sensed a change in Luciana. She began to work more frequent overtime, attend more art salons and exhibition openings, and always came home exhausted and perfunctory to Martin's concerns and greetings. At first, Martin thought it was just a result of work stress, until that Friday night. "Sorry, Martin. The gallery has a temporary important client that I have to attend to," Luciana said to Martin in the mirror as she applied her makeup. "But tonight is our regular movie night, and it's been canceled 3 weeks in a row." Martin leaned against the doorframe, lost in his tone. "Can we make that client appointment next week?" Luciana stopped the lipstick in her hand and turned to face Martin. "This client is very important and could lead to a big deal for the gallery. Diego needs me to be present." "Diego again?" frowned Martin. "That so-called emerging artist? This is the 3rd time this month we've canceled our plans because of him." "Don't talk about him like that, Martin. Diego's work is innovative and explosive, and he is being competed for by several international galleries. It would be very important for my career if I could sign him." Luciana's tone turned a little icy. Martin sighed. "Well, I understand your job. It's just that we're spending less and less time together. It's not like we're teenagers who just fell in love and need to stick together all the time. The adult world is about facing reality, Martin." Luciana packed her bag and walked towards the door. "Don't wait up for me. I might be late." As the door closed, Martin stood still, feeling an inexplicable pang of unease. He picked up his phone and hesitated, but opened social media. Luciana rarely posts content on Instagram, but Martin has noticed that she's been much more active lately. He swiped the screen and saw a recurring figure in Luciana's most recent photos: Diego, the supposedly talented artist. The photo shows Diego, about 35 years old, with dark hair and brown eyes, a well-trimmed beard, and casual but expensive clothes. There was an untamed look in his eyes, as if he were mocking the viewer behind the camera. In each photo, he stands slightly closer to Luciana, not crossing the line, but making Martin uncomfortable. Martin closed his phone and decided to do some work to distract himself. But the image of Luciana and Diego standing side by side kept coming back to him. Intuition told him that it wasn't simple. The following week, Martin began to consciously watch for changes in Luciana's behavior. Her cell phone was always set on silent and never left her side. She quickly switches screens when Martin approaches. She began to pay more attention to her dress and makeup, even if it was just to work at the gallery. Most suspiciously, she changed her perfume, from Chanel, which she had been wearing for the past 5 years, to a scent Martin had never smelled before. On Wednesday night, Martin pretended to be asleep when he felt Luciana get up gingerly and walk out onto the balcony with her cell phone. Through the half-open door, he heard her lower her voice and say, "No, not yet. He doesn't know. Same time tomorrow. I miss you too." Martin closed his eyes and felt a wave of vertigo. His instincts were confirmed, but he needed hard evidence. As a detail-oriented architect, he decided to take action, but had to be careful. The next day, Martin left the office early under the false pretense that he had an important project meeting. He drove to Galleria Aurora, only to find that Luciana was not in the gallery. The assistant told him that Luciana had gone on a studio tour with an artist and was not expected back until the afternoon. Martin didn't show anything unusual, just said he was passing by and wanted to surprise his wife and left. He knew Diego's studio was in the Palermo district, something Luciana had once inadvertently mentioned. With his familiarity with the city, he quickly found the building with the mural painted on the exterior. The studio is on the third floor, but through the cafe on the first floor, Martin can clearly see everyone coming in and out of the building. 3 hours later, Martin saw Luciana and Diego exit the building together. To his heartbreak, Luciana's makeup was a bit disheveled and her clothes were noticeably different in the folds than they had been in the morning. Diego's hand naturally rested on her waist, and she didn't duck. As they said goodbye on the sidewalk, Diego leaned in close to whisper something in Luciana's ear, and then they exchanged a brief but obviously intimate kiss. Martin felt a wave of nausea. Resisting the urge to rush over and question him, he silently recorded the time and what he saw. As a rational person, he knew that an emotional confrontation would only make things worse. He needed a plan, one that would protect his dignity and make his betrayer pay. For the next 2 weeks, Martin behaved as he always does. He continues to come home on time, takes an interest in Luciana's work, and even offers to accompany her on weekends to see Diego's new exhibit. Luciana was surprised by her husband's sudden passion for art, but accepted it with open arms. At the exhibition, Martin witnessed the subtle eye contact and unintentional physical contact between his wife and her lover. He smiles and shakes Diego's hand, praising him for his deep and insightful work while internally calculating the details of his revenge. Martin started gathering evidence. He enlisted the help of a private investigator friend to obtain photos and videos of Luciana's date with Diego while ensuring it was legal. He consulted the Argentine divorce laws and learned about the rules governing the division of property. He keeps in touch with their mutual friends to find out about Luciana's recent social activities. At the same time, he began secretly organizing his personal finances and securing his professional credentials and important documents. The time is finally ripe. It was a Friday night, and once again Luciana was late on the pretext of work. Martin sat quietly in the living room with 2 glasses of wine and a stack of photographs on the table. When Luciana pushed her way in, she immediately noticed the unusual atmosphere. "Why aren't you asleep?" She tried to ask in a relaxed tone, but the tension in her voice was obvious. "I'm waiting for you." Martin gestured for her to sit down. "We need to talk." Luciana approached slowly and turned instantly pale when she saw the photo on the table. It was evidence of her intimacy with Diego on various occasions, with dates and times clearly visible. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you stalking me?" Luciana's voice began to rise. "No, I'm just facing up to the truth that I've been trying to ignore." Martin's tone was calm but icy. "You and Diego have been going at it for what? 3 months? 6 months?" Luciana's demeanor quickly shifted from shock to defense. "You don't understand, Martin. My life requires passion and creativity. Diego understands my artistic soul, and you. And I'm just an ordinary architect, am I? An ordinary man who can't understand your noble artistic pursuits." Martin smiled bitterly. "I thought our marriage was built on mutual respect and loyalty." "Marriage?" Luciana sneered. "You call that a marriage? Repeating the same conversations every day, watching the same movies on weekends, going to the same places on vacations. Martin, that's not life, that's routine. Then why don't you just tell me you're not satisfied? Why did you choose to deceive? Because you wouldn't understand. Diego brought color and feeling to my life and made me feel alive again." Martin took a deep breath. "If you want to leave and go live what you call a passionate life, I won't stand in the way. But please be honest with me about our marriage." "Oh, come on, Martin. You're always so rational and noble." Luciana's tone was filled with sarcasm. "In reality, you're just afraid of change, afraid of taking risks. That's why I need Diego." Martin looked at her quietly. "If you go back to him, I won't be here when you return. Please make your choice, Luciana." Luciana looks Martin straight in the eye and gives him the middle finger. My choice? This is my choice. Your threats don't work on me. Martin, that I should have left this boring marriage a long time ago. Martin ended the marriage on the spot. He stood up, his voice calm but firm. I understand. I will contact a lawyer to prepare the divorce papers. Please move out by tomorrow. This is the home we share. You can't just kick me out. Luciana suddenly panicked. As a matter of fact, I can. This apartment was in my name before we were married, and, under Argentine property law, you have no right to claim continued residence. Of course, you can go to a lawyer and fight for it, but given your infidelity and the evidence I have, I think any judge would be on my side. Luciana's eyes widened, seeing Martin show this cold side for the first time. When did you become such a person? From the moment you betrayed me. Martin replied calmly and walked towards the bedroom, leaving Luciana standing alone in the center of the living room, shocked and terrified. Martin stayed at the hotel that night. The next day, he arranged for an attorney to begin the divorce process. To Luciana's shock, Martin had already prepared for everything. He blocked their joint account, contacted the owner of the gallery to explain the situation, and even prepared a new residence. Over the next few days, rumors began to circulate in Buenos Aires art circles about Luciana and Diego. Many artists and collectors who had once respected her began to distance themselves from her, fearing that their work would be caught up in the scandal. Diego, on the other hand, behaves much more indifferently than Luciana thought he would when he learns that things are falling apart. It was just a pleasant time. Luciana, that I never promised anything. When she showed up at his studio with her bags, Diego didn't even invite her in. I'm going to New York to exhibit soon. Not a good time for you to move in. Maybe you should find a hotel for a few days. Luciana stands in the doorway of Diego's studio and suddenly realizes that she has lost a man who truly cares about her for a moment of passion and escape. And the man who risked everything for her wouldn't even lend a hand when she needed it most. Meanwhile, Martin isn't wallowing in grief. He accepted an important restoration project in Córdoba and left Buenos Aires temporarily. He knew that healing would take time, but life had to go on. While unpacking, he finds a photo of him and Luciana on vacation in Patagonia. He looks at Luciana's bright smile in the photo and wonders if the happiness he felt then was also an illusion. But in any case, that memory was in the past, and the future awaited him ahead. The morning light of Córdoba pours over the old church spire as Martin stands on the scaffolding, scrutinizing the progress of the restoration. For 3 months, he devoted all his energy to the project, trying to fill the hole in his heart with work. The divorce was finalized, the physical separation was easy, but the emotional cut was far more difficult than he had imagined. Good morning, Martin, came a gentle female voice from below. Elena is the head of the local Historic Preservation Society and has been working closely with Martin for the past 3 months. She was a woman of intellectual elegance with a deep love of historic architecture. Morning, Elena, Martin responded with a smile. Are we checking the stained glass on the south wall today? Yes, the restoration team has just completed the initial treatment. I'd like to get your professional opinion. Elena handed him a cup of coffee. You look much better today. Martin took the coffee. Yeah? Probably because I finally got a good night's sleep last night. That's good. Elena said gently. Grieving takes time, but life always moves on. Martin gave her a grateful look. He doesn't explain his divorce in detail to his colleagues in Córdoba, but the sensitive Elena seems to sense his change of mood. She never pressed the issue, just offered support and understanding when appropriate. This no-pressure care makes Martin feel comfortable. Meanwhile, in Buenos Aires, Luciana's life is undergoing great upheaval. Diego's New York show was a huge success, but he didn't invite Luciana along and rarely even responded to her messages. The gallery owner questions her performance, especially after learning of her relationship with Diego, and worries that it will affect the professional image of the gallery. What was most embarrassing for Luciana was that Martin did not publicize her infidelity before he left, but rumors spread relentlessly in the art world. Her once proud social network began to crumble, and many of her friends and coworkers began to alienate her. She tries to contact Martin, hoping to get his understanding, but each time she only hears a cold voicemail tone. One night, after yet another perfunctory session with Diego, Luciana sat alone in her temporarily rented apartment. looking through old photos in her cell phone album. Those days with Martin suddenly became incredibly precious. The surprise party he'd thrown for her birthday, their weekend getaways in small-town Uruguay, even ordinary Sunday mornings, when Martin would make her favorite breakfast and they'd spend time together on the balcony, reading and talking. She then realized how rare a blessing those seemingly mundane routines could be. In contrast, the passion and creativity Diego gives her is just a momentary thrill and an illusory escape. When the passion recedes, all that's left is emptiness and the bitterness of betrayal. She lost a partner who truly loved and respected her for the sake of the moment. Meanwhile, Martin's work in Cordoba is going well. The church's restoration project received local media attention and Martin's expertise was widely recognized. Elena invites him to a small community event, his first social gathering since his divorce. "I'm not sure I'm ready," Martin told Elena frankly. "It's okay. It's just regular people who care about historic buildings. There's no pressure, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can always leave." Elena encouraged gently. To Martin's surprise, he had a great night at the party. Away from the social scene in Buenos Aires, he felt a sense of relief that he had never felt before. People cared about his work and insights into architecture, not his marital status. After the party, Elena walks him back to the hotel, hesitating as she says goodbye. "Martin, I know you just went through a tough time. I don't want to add any more pressure on you, but I want you to know that I'm always here if you need a friend or just want to talk." Martin felt a rush of warmth. "Thank you, Elena. Your friendship means a lot to me." Back at the hotel, Martin finds 3 missed calls on his cell phone, all from Luciana. He hesitated, but finally decided to call back. "Martin," said Luciana, her voice dripping with surprise and unease. "I thought you wouldn't call me back. Can I help you?" Martin's tone was calm and detached. "I was just wondering how you were doing," Luciana said carefully. "I heard your program in Cordova was successful." "Yes, everything is fine," Martin replied briefly, followed by a moment of silence. "Martin, I made a terrible mistake." Luciana's voice began to tremble. "I regret it. I really do. Diego wasn't at all the man I thought he was. He just used me to promote his work and then tossed me aside once he was successful. I'm sorry to hear that, but it's none of my business," Martin said calmly. "I know I'm in no position to ask for your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I realize my mistake. What I said the other night, my behavior. I'm truly sorry." There was a sob in Luciana's voice. "I just don't know what I was thinking." Martin closed his eyes and felt the pain in his chest. While Luciana's remorse seems real, some damage, once done, cannot be fully repaired. "Luciana, I accept your apology. But that doesn't mean we can go back in time. Once something happens, it's impossible to pretend it never existed." "I understand," Luciana whispered. "I just want you to know that I really do regret it. Believe it or not, I did love you." After hanging up the phone, Martin stood at the window for a long time, looking out over Cordoba at night. He felt a strange calmness, as if some knot that had been bothering him had finally been untied. Luciana's apology won't erase her betrayal, but at least she acknowledged her mistake. This may be the first step towards him starting to really let go. For the next few months, Martin devoted himself to his work. The church restoration project was a great success, and his name began to be recognized in the international field of architectural conservation. Elena became an important friend in his life, and together they explored Cordoba's historic neighborhoods, discussed architectural ideas, and even enjoyed the occasional dinner together. This no-pressure friendship healed the wounds in Martin's heart. 6 months later, Martin received a call from an important client in Buenos Aires inviting him back to work on the restoration plans for a large historic district. It's a rare opportunity, but it also means he has to face the past. "You should take the program," Elena told him upon learning the news. "It's a recognition of your professional abilities." "But that means I have to go back to Buenos Aires." Martin hesitated a little. "Martin, you're not the same sad man you were 6 months ago. You have the ability to make a life for yourself wherever you are." Elena smiled. "Besides, Cordoba isn't that far from Buenos Aires. We can still see each other often." Martin looked at her gratefully. "Thank you, Elena. Your support has meant a lot to me these past few months." "Friends are meant to support each other," Elena said gently. "But I want you to know that our friendship is special to me too. If you're ready, maybe we can try to take it a step further. But there's no need to rush the decision. Everything is at your pace. Martin returned to Buenos Aires and realized that the city no longer caused him pain. He rents a new apartment and starts a new life away from the memories of his past. The project is going well, and his team is dynamic and innovative. Martin met Luciana by chance one weekend afternoon at a cafe in the San Telmo district. She looked much more haggard than she had in the past, but still maintained her elegance. "Martin," she stood in surprise. "I heard you were back, but I didn't expect to meet you here." "Luciana," Martin greeted with a calm nod of his head. "Are you okay?" "Still trying to rebuild my life." She smiled bitterly. "After I left the gallery, I started a small art consulting firm. It's small, but at least it's a fresh start." "I'm glad to hear that," Martin said sincerely. Luciana hesitated. "What about you? Is the project in Cordoba over?" "Yes. Right now I'm in charge of restoration planning for the San Telmo Historic District." "I've heard about that program. It makes perfect sense." Luciana nodded, and then there was an awkward silence. "Martin, I know this may not be appropriate, but I want to apologize again." Luciana finally spoke. "I've been reflecting on my behavior for a while now. I realized that I hurt the people who cared about me the most, just because of a moment of impulse and vanity." Martin took a deep breath. "Thank you for apologizing, Luciana. Honestly, I'm not angry about it anymore. That experience taught me more about myself, and maybe in a way, it was necessary." Luciana looked at him in surprise. "You've really changed, Martin. You seem calmer." "Maybe." Martin smiled slightly. "I hope you find your peace as well, Luciana." After leaving the cafe, Martin dialed Elena's number. At the sound of her warm voice, he felt a sense of relief and anticipation that he had never felt before. "I just met Luciana," he told Elena. "Oh, that must have been awkward," Elena said with concern. "Oddly enough, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be," Martin said honestly. "In fact, it convinced me of one thing." "What is it?" "I've really let go of the past." Martin smiled. "Elena, I think I'm ready. Can you come to Buenos Aires next week? I'd like to show you a project I'm working on, and maybe we could have dinner afterward." Elena's laugh came through the phone. "I'd love to, Martin. I'm already looking forward to it." Hanging up the phone, Martin looked out over the Buenos Aires skyline with a sense of anticipation for the future. That painful experience had once made him think he would never be able to trust and love again. But life, in its own way, proved the resilience of mankind. The scars of betrayal never fully disappear, but they become marks of growth over time. And on the other side of town, Luciana sits alone in her modest office with a photo of her and Martin on vacation in Patagonia on her desk. She gently stroked Martin's smiling face in the photo, feeling deep regret for her foolish choice. Diego has long since left Argentina and is said to have found a new muse in New York. She, in turn, must face the consequences of her choices alone. Maybe one day she'll find inner peace like Martin did. But for now, she could only learn from her mistakes and hope that the road ahead would not once again be clouded by her own impulses and vanity. The price of betrayal is far heavier than one might think. When you betray a sincere relationship, you lose not only a relationship, but respect for yourself and inner peace. No amount of tantalizing passion and excitement can make up for the emptiness that comes with the loss of trust. It's a lesson Luciana has spent a lifetime learning, and wisdom Martin has gained at the cost of pain. Buenos Aires is still as beautiful as ever in the evening sun. The people of the city continue their own stories of laughter, tears, betrayal, and redemption. And the story of Martin and Luciana is just one of the countless stories in this city, but it contains an eternal truth. True love requires not sensational passion, but perseverance and respect day after day. If you like this story, please don't forget to like and support it. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the little bells and whistles so you don't miss out on the great weekly updates. Every share you make allows more people to hear these heart-touching stories, and every comment you make is our greatest encouragement. In the next story, we will explore another thought-provoking life journey. What kind of stories would you like to hear? Feel free to let me know in the comments section. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.